In this video, I'm very excited to introduce you to how a website works. Now, before learning how to develop websites, it's very important to know the different components that make up a website and also have a good understanding of how they interact with each other. Now, if you go to any website, by typing a URL in your browser's address bar, you will get a web page like this. And this is basically a file or a group of files which has been returned by the server upon your request and then read by your browser and then displayed on your web page accordingly. So just a quick detail here, what we see right here is what we call a web page. So a web page is part of a website. In our example, this web page is part of the Wikipedia website, which has got other web pages which are interconnected. So if I click on any of these links, then I'll go to one of the Wikipedia website web pages. But for simplicity, when we say website, sometimes we refer to a web page. So on a web page, you will see data or information which is displayed in different formats. So you find text like a heading or a paragraph. You find also links, images, forms, which you can fill and submit to a server, and so on. Also, these elements are styled in a certain way. So for instance, these links are styled using a nice blue color, and this button has got a nice blue background. Also, each of these elements is positioned in a specific location on the web page to create an appealing design for our users. So, for instance, this picture is placed in the center of the web page and surrounded by all these links and text. This form or search bar is placed in the middle of the web page, and you'll see that these elements are laid out inside columns, creating a beautiful design for website users. Now, there is another very important aspect, and that's the interactivity of the web page. And that means how the web page will react to certain events created by the user. For example, if I start typing the name of an article inside this search field, then Wikipedia will suggest certain articles which may be of interest to me based on the keywords that I typed so far. And that's one way of how a web page could be interactive and respond to user events like typing. There are other events that a web page can respond to, like clicking on a button, for instance, and so on. Now, all the aspects that we covered so far are things which are visible to the user, unlike things happening on the server side, for example, which the user can't see. So anything that you can see on the web page and interacts with is what is called the front end. Now, in this course, you are going to learn front-end technologies which are used to build modern-looking interactive websites, and then after that you're going to move to the back end and learn technologies which you can use to write code on the server side. Now let's start with the front end and run a simple simulation where we're going to create a website and go through the different technologies used to create the different aspects of the website that we covered earlier. So first of all, I'm going to add some components to the website, starting with a title, for instance, a paragraph, then an image, then a table and a list. So all these elements, they make up the skeleton of the website. So the technology you use to create these is called HTML. Now, HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. So hypertext means that the different web pages are linked to each other using links. So if I click on this link, for example, it will take me to another web page. HTML is a markup language, and that's because the syntax that HTML uses is based on tags. So for example, to create a paragraph, you write some text and then you wrap it inside these p tags. P stands for paragraph, and you've got an open tag, which is p wrapped inside brackets, and a close tag, which is /p inside brackets. HTML5 is the latest HTML as we're speaking now, and that's the version of HTML that we're going to be using throughout the course. Now let's add some decoration to our website. So for instance, I'm going to add a nice color to the title and this paragraph, and a border to the image, and also style the table and list using some nice colors and borders. Now let's move the elements around and create a nice layout for our web page. So for instance, I can center the title, move this paragraph slightly down, then move this image to the side and increase its size, and also move the list up and resize the table. So these tasks can be performed using another technology which is called CSS. CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets and is used to add styling and decoration to your websites. You can also use it to change the size of different elements on your website and position them in specific locations on your web page. Just like HTML, CSS comes with its own syntax, where you need to select an element and then add some styling to it. So for instance, we are selecting here all paragraphs using the P tag and then setting their color to blue. Now there are other ways of selecting elements which we will cover in detail in the CSS chapter. So you don't have to worry too much about the syntax at the moment, because that's something we're going to cover in detail later on. Now the reason why CSS is called Cascading Style Sheets is because there are rules which will determine which styling is going to take over when a certain element matches two or more different stylings. So a simple example is where I tell the browser that all elements on my web page should have a green color, and I also tell the browser that all paragraphs inside my web page should have a blue color. So in this scenario, both rules match paragraphs, but the browser is going to decide which rule is going to apply based on CSS precedence rules. Now let's add some interactivity to our web page. So for instance, we can decide that when the user clicks on this button, a video is launched. Or if the user clicks on that title, its styling changes. Or if you are developing a game, you can decide that once the game starts, a plane enters the screen with some nice background sound effects. And also, if the user clicks on the top arrow, you move the plane upwards. Or if the plane gets hit by an enemy, you make the plane explode with some sound and animation. So all these effects can be created using JavaScript. Now JavaScript, unlike HTML and CSS, is a programming language, which means that you use it to write certain instructions to be executed by a computer. And you can also tell the computer that those instructions are to be performed under certain circumstances. JavaScript comes with its own syntax, which we will cover in detail in the JavaScript chapter. But just to give you a quick idea, in this example, we tell the browser that the plane should move upwards. And an example of code that would be used for that scenario would look similar to this, where plane refers to the plane object and move up is a function attached to this object, which tells the browser that the object should move up. So again, you don't have to worry about the syntax, as you're going to learn that later. JavaScript used to be used to write code on the front end only, but today it is also used to write code on the server side under NodeJS. And that is something you're going to go through in the back-end section of the course. Now, these are the three technologies which are used to develop modern-looking interactive websites, and if you learn them, you will know everything you need to build advanced, responsive, modern websites. Now, I'm very excited to take you through the course curriculum in the next video, where you're going to have a projection into the future and explore the different topics, activities, and projects you're going to enjoy creating throughout the course.